Hey, this is Dash, and I haven't done any videos with my RC car in a while, and there's a pretty good reason. The wheel is broken here. If I flip this up, you'll see that the little axle hub carrier deal is broken. With that being said, what is happening is I can pop that back in there, but as soon as, and I have the drift tires on here, and as soon as I do any force that way, it pops right out. And because it pops right out, I had to get replacement parts. And I'm hoping that I can take these parts, and there's the specific track number. I'm hoping I can take the parts and fix this up in here. Alright, so in case you missed it, this is my Boss 302, and it's a little broken. I'm going to try to put you up on a stand and go from there. There's a little bit better view of the actual carrier hub problem. And I'm gonna just try and work this out. Alright, so at this point I'm starting to take everything apart, and I'm hoping that I can get it worked out. As you see here, I open up the package with the replacement parts to try to figure out how I need to get the old parts off and the new parts on. Each of the parts has there's 2 left and 2 right axle carriers, so I pulled out the one that I needed for this. Looking at the car, the right side. Got the tools out, started doing the disassembly. Everything was going smoothly, and then I hit a little snafu. When you try to take the axle carrier out, there are 2 plastic little clips that are like, they go into the camber bolts. Those camber bolts are or the little plastic pieces that go into the camber bolts are what are holding the axle hub to the actual car. And you see, I'm trying to figure out how to get the axle hub off. I pick up the old one. What I finally decided to do, or ended up doing, was flipping it up on its side after I dropped something. Flipping the car up on its side. There we go. And I used the pressure of I pushed down as well as pushing out on the clips at the same time to get the little plastic bit to pop out. This by far was the hardest part of the whole disassembly of this axle hub. I'm about to pop the first one out. I get the first one out, and then I decide to push in and push up at the same time on the second one, which proved to be a little bit easier, as opposed to it taking me 10 minutes to get the first one done. I got the second one done in like 2. I'm like still trying to figure out how to get it out the best way, and I decided to work it out, and I work it out up and out. Here it comes. Hopefully sometime tomorrow. And there it is out. So now I have to unscrew, in order to get the axle carrier out, you have to unscrew those bolts. Are camber bolts or camber nuts or camber screws. If you don't know what camber is, look it up. But that's your camber adjustment. This is me trying to figure out how to get the axle itself, or the actual shaft, out of the axle carrier. What I ended up doing was taking out the other camber screw, putting the 2 camber screws into the new carrier. I figured I would think about how to take the other part apart while I was reassembling this part, the piece that I knew how to do. When you put the camber bolts or camber screws in, all you have to do is just basically press those 2 little clips. Press those 2 little clips in the axle carrier. And I'm slowing this part down because you pry that nut out, and then when you pry that out, there's a little, like, this little pin is gonna fall. Here's the little pin that's holding the axle shaft in. There's the pin. The axle shaft can be removed from the carrier. And I'm trying to get all of the things that are wrapped around. Actually, no, I'm popping out the bearings. There's an inner bearing and an outer bearing. I dropped the outer bearing. And then all you need to do is from the inside push out the outer bearing, and then opposite, from the inside push out the, or from the outside push out the inner bearing. And that's what I'm doing at this point. It takes a little pressure and finesse. Just be careful with it so that you don't actually mar or scratch or damage that bearing. At this point, I'm getting ready to put the bearings back into the, or put the bearings into the new carrier. You saw I wiped off the first carrier. I wiped off the first bearing, cleaned it up a bit. Now I slowed this part, or actually I sped this up to real time. This is where I'm putting that little pin. See the little pin that's underneath my hand? I apologize for my hands kind of being in the way the whole time. I'm making sure that the bearings went in fine and there's not binding. You put the pin in, and then you put the, there's the pin going on. Then you put the little nut back on there, and you should hear the click when you get it in there correctly. There, I'm lining it up with the pin, and you'll hear it click. Making sure it's spinning freely again. And then the rest is pretty much the reassembly. I'm screwing in those camber screws. You get that screw started. And once you get it started, you can line everything up. Once you line it up, screw everything in tightly. I'm making sure that the suspension flexes properly. Everything was fine. I think I tightened it a little too much. You can see that it was just pitched forward, I guess. I guess that's toe in. Unscrewed it a little bit, loosened it up, and it worked out. Put the tire back on. And it's good to go. This is the old one, the old carrier, axle carrier, and what I'm trying to show you is there's a crack in the axle carrier, and you can kind of see it right about there. There, you see that it's just a hairline crack, and it goes through the whole thing. But when the pressure was applied properly, it broke open. Everything's back together. Let's turn it on, make sure it works. Cool beans. There we have it. Nice and repaired. Took the axle hub. You saw I had a little trouble getting the axle hub off, but I managed to get it off, and there you go. Hopefully this was informational and or helpful to you. Talk to you later.